I've made over $350,000 with Amazon FBA, but it hasn't always been this easy. I remember when I first started out, it took me months to get my first sale. I made every mistake in the book, and it genuinely got me very close to almost quitting. But fast forward to today, I live in my dream Miami high-rise, I drive my dream car, and living the life that I always dreamed about, and it's all because of Amazon FBA. So in this video, I want to give you my exact blueprint to starting Amazon FBA so that you can do the same thing. I've split this video up into 5 parts, and assuming that you watch the video all the way to the end, you can start getting some sales. And before we get into that, there's something that a lot of people tend to get wrong about Amazon. Every other guru online talks about Amazon as if it's passive income. They say things like set up your store, list some products, and boom, you're making money. But as for someone that's been doing this for 3 years, I hate to break it to you, that's simply incorrect. Amazon FBA isn't like other side hustles like TikTok shop or drop shipping. Anyone can buy some random garbage from China and start selling for a ridiculous price. But this is completely different. This is a real business. And if you want Amazon to make you a bunch of money, you're gonna have to treat it like one. This is buying name brand products that already sell a certain amount of times on Amazon. So you don't have to run ads, you don't have to set up a website or do any SEO or take pictures. Everything is already done for you. All you have to do is figure out how you can get that product for cheaper so you can sell it for more. Now, if you're still watching at this point in the video, I'm gonna assume you're very serious. So let's dive into step 1. All right, so the first thing you have to do is obviously set up an Amazon seller account. Now, of course, when I say that, I know a lot of you guys are gonna be thinking, oh, cool, I just clicked this button and sign up and boom, I'm good. But this is one of the main things that I see beginners get wrong. A lot of people think that you could just sign up and start selling straight away, but that's simply not the case. Like I said earlier in the video, we're building a real business here. So there's a few more checks that you'll have to be aware of before moving forward. Initially, there's gonna be a verification process. So you're gonna need to give Amazon your ID. They're also gonna ask for your bank account information and your tax information as well. And lastly, they're gonna ask for your address. This is to make sure that you're actually talking about a real physical location that they can ship products to if they need to. Now, once you're done with all of that, you'll need to pick a plan. So there's 2 options, and a lot of people are gonna go for the free option, which I guess makes sense, but here's what I do instead. The free option will cost you about $1 a unit, and the second option is about $40 a month upfront. Now, it's super simple as to why I picked the $40 a month one. If you plan on selling any more than 40 units a month, then the first one is kind of useless. At this point, you should have your Amazon account, and this is where you're gonna run into the biggest decision that you're gonna be faced with when starting your Amazon journey. So when people say Amazon FBA, they often lump everything together. However, there are 3 options to pick from, each with their own pros and cons. To make this part easier, I'm gonna break down all your options for you, and then I'll also show you what I decided to go with. The first strategy is retail and online arbitrage. And I know this sounds hella confusing. Let me explain. In simpler terms, retail arbitrage is going in store and finding products that are profitable and buying them at the physical location. For example, walking into Target, seeing something that might be profitable, looking it up and seeing if you could buy it for a cheaper price than what it sells for, and making a decision on if you want to buy it or not. The biggest pro for retail arbitrage is that it's easy to comprehend how that works. But the biggest con is that it's very hard to scale because not every store is gonna have the amount of units that you need in order to make a lot of money. Online arbitrage is great. It's essentially retail arbitrage, but instead of going in store and scanning products and seeing if they're profitable, you're doing that online. So the correlation to retail arbitrage would be instead of just walking in the store and buying products, you're actually scraping their website and finding products there. The biggest pro to online arbitrage is that you could do it from the comfort of your own home, and it's very scalable compared to retail arbitrage. The biggest con, however, is scalability. After you get to a point where you're buying hundreds or thousands of units a day with online arbitrage, you will get lots of cancels online. Now, online arbitrage is a great one. There's not too many cons, maybe except for the fact that you're just gonna have a lot of boxes at your doorstep at scale. That's how I personally got started, and that's how I recommend most people get started. That's because this strategy is super low risk and super low cost. The only con to both of these is how much money you can actually make with it. Let's say you find a great product at Walmart that you want to sell. You're limited to how much you can make because there might only be so much on the shelves. So even if you find a product that you're going to profit a lot off of, you might only find 2 or 5. It doesn't matter how good the product is, you can't buy a lot, so it doesn't really matter. Honestly, this is a perfect place for a beginner to start, but if you're trying to make some serious money, that's where the next strategy comes in. Now, this strategy is what I use to personally make over $50,000 every single month with Amazon FBA. And this strategy is called wholesale. Now, this is what made me the majority of my cash with Amazon FBA. The main reason is because it's a lot easier to scale with this strategy. Unlike the previous strategy, wholesale, you're able to buy so many more units and be able to scale so much faster because instead of depending on the store or the website, you're actually able to tap in with direct suppliers and place big purchase orders. The only drawback with wholesale is obviously you have to have a lot of capital in order to spend on these purchase orders. So ideally, I tell a lot of beginners to start off with online arbitrage until they have enough money for wholesale. But there's one final strategy, and this is what takes you from making thousands of dollars a month to millions. And that strategy is called private label. Private label is essentially creating your own brand. You're no longer selling people's products or bigger brands, you're making your own. Now I'm gonna be honest, I don't think a lot of you guys who are watching this video are in the position to do private label. That being said, I would say this is where people make the most amount of money with Amazon. It's easily the most amount of work, but this is where the millions are created. And it's eventually where I'll be one day since I'm already working on a brand as we speak. Now that you understand all the options available to you, let's go over how you can actually find products to sell. I would say that this is the part where most beginners struggle with. But honestly, regardless of the strategy that you pick, finding profitable products are actually not that difficult. It all comes down to one simple concept of supply and demand. If the supply is low and demand is high, you'll make good money. Now, I know you guys are gonna want more sauce on that, so let me explain. To make this easier for you guys, first, I wanna run you through my winning product criteria. And second, I'm gonna explain how to actually find these products. First, I always look for at least a 30% ROI. This leaves lots of room for profit, even if you get a return or two. I also make sure that the product is selling at least 100 times a month. Now, depending on the type of seller that you are, the amount of capital you have access to, this criteria could easily change. For someone that has over $10,000, I wouldn't focus on products that only sell 50 times a month. And that leads me into the third thing. You don't want to have too many products. Especially in the beginning, it's much better to go deep than go wide. Of course, it's good to have a balance of both, but you want to have products that you can sell for months and possibly years on end. At this point, you already know what Amazon FBA is. You've picked your strategy and now you've picked some products to sell. So now let's get into step 4 of this process, and I would argue that this is the most important one. We can talk about all the good things about Amazon and how you'll make so much money, etc., etc. But like I said in the beginning of the video, this is not passive income. You actually need to put in the work, and what I'm about to tell you is what I'm usually working on. So at this point, you source your products and now you're listing them for sale. And here you have two options. Option 1, you could ignore what I'm about to say and try to do this alone. Or option 2, you can watch to the end of this video so that you can properly know how to run an Amazon FBA business so that you can make over $10,000 in just a few short months. To get started, you'll need a few simple basics. You'll need boxes. You'll need tape, you'll need scissors, you'll need poly bags, you need 4x6 label printer paper, and you also need 1x2 barcode label printer paper. And the most expensive thing of all of these that you'll have to buy is the actual label printer. Now there's a lot of thermal label printers out there, but Rollo is by far the best one, and they have amazing support. Once you've bought all of this equipment, you need to now get your products to Amazon. Now a huge mistake that I see a lot of Amazon sellers do is they actually buy too much inventory, and their inventory ends up sitting for months and they don't make as many sales as they thought. If you're just starting out, you need to start out slowly and build your way up. For the first few months, you need to actually learn the Amazon skill itself, not trying to make a bunch of money right out of the gate. The thing is, eventually you'll make a bunch of money, but I can't stress this enough. We're building a real business. This isn't some get rich quick scheme, so you'll actually have to go through this process in order to make more money down the line. Amazon FBA isn't that difficult. All you need to be able to do is learn how to figure out if a product can be profitable, buy that said product, list it on Amazon, send it to Amazon's warehouse, and just repeat that process over and over again. And that leaves us with the final step of this video. And if you're watching till this point in the video, I want to tell you a little secret. You just learned exactly how to start Amazon FBA. Of course, there are a few more things to learn here and there along the way, but essentially you just learned exactly what you need in order to get your first few sales on Amazon. From this point, you're going to repeat this process over and over again. In addition, you'll also need to keep an eye on your items once they're listed. I usually keep an eye on stock levels, pricing, and a few other things, but generally this takes me less than an hour a day. Now, if you got all the way through this video, I know for a fact that you want to start this. So in this video right here, I'm going to break down my exact story on how I went from being expelled to making over $50,000 every single month in profit from Amazon FBA. So if you want to see how this can change your life, click right here.